Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's start our video with a story about a couple who recently bought their home only to face frequent trespassing from their neighbors at a nearby camp. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with a turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. I want to put up private property signs. My husband and I bought our house last year. We have a very long driveway, 500 to 600 feet. We live next door to, let's call it a camp for old people. They provide housing for people who do not have family or housing of their own. We live in a rural state. The camp has about 42 acres of land total and a solid 5 that's a grassy area they can use. We have 2.5 acres and clearly defined property lines. People from this camp have come on our property several times, and I've called and spoken with the director of the camp asking them to advise their residents to stay on the camp's property. Also important to note, there's a trail that runs in the woods behind our house, partially on our property and partially on theirs. We both have our own entrance to the trail. We have no problems with them using the trail, even if it's on our property, but we've asked them to use their own entrance to enter and exit the trail. We have a doorbell camera and another camera on the front of the house pointed towards the driveway. We don't have any other cameras, but are planning on putting more cameras that aim along the sides and back of the house. Incident number 1. March 2023. 2 people with dogs came up the trail and into our yard. They looked into our wishing well, went around the side of the house and near the garage, just generally poking around. I called the camp and explained what had happened and why I was concerned. They apologized and said one of their residents was a recovering alcoholic and was known to hide alcohol, and they thought there might be some on our property. I asked them to please not come on the property again and to use their own trail entrance. Incident number 2, December 2023. This winter I was working on a project with a friend inside. My back was to the window and she was facing the window. She said someone was walking around the front yard/driveway area. There was a man with a dog on a leash walking through the front of our yard. He went up to the camp afterwards. I did not approach him or call them this time. Incident number 3, April 2024. The camp provides a food pantry to residents in the community. During this event, 2 people walked down from the camp and into our driveway/front yard. They had a discussion about whether or not someone lived there and poked around a bit. We have a swing set, grill, garden beds, flags, and plenty of other things that would indicate someone lives there. I called the camp and again requested that they do not come on our property. There have been other times that they've used our trail entrance to enter or exit the trail, probably about 5 to 7 times total. I've not contacted the camp when these have occurred. I want to put up no trespassing signs, private property signs, but my husband said that's too much and I would be the a-hole. If the people working at the center don't think they need to knock and ask permission to search your property, then they aren't going to take your request seriously. Put up signs and get more cameras to protect yourself. And our second story. You have to provide electric scooters. It's the law. For context, I work at a liquidation store for groceries. Think of it like Big Lots or Ollie's for mostly food only. We're also set up in a fairly poor part of town, so we get a fair amount of characters. I don't want to start an argument about the current state of socioeconomics in America, but suffice to say, a lot of our customers have somewhat of an entitled attitude, as though they expect things to be handed out to them. This specific story occurred about 3 months ago. A lady and her elderly mother came in to shop. This lady will be called Entitled B, or EB for short. EB approached me as I was making my way to the office to change a price in the system. She was nice enough at first. EB: Excuse me, sir. Me: Yes, ma'am. EB: I saw you had some wheelchairs up front. For context, we usually have 2 or 3 wheelchairs up front until they get stolen. They usually get replaced via customers bringing in older ones, as our company budget's pretty tight and won't buy any. Me: We do. If you need to use one, feel free. Just please return it to the store if you take it out to the parking lot. Let me know if I can help you with anything else. I started up the steps to the office. EB, don't walk away from me. Me, pardon? For some reason, I say this to any customer that says this to me, regardless of if I heard them. It just seems polite for some reason. EB, I wasn't done. Where are your electric scooters? Me, we don't have any. EB, you had one last week. Me, somebody had ridden that from big grocery chain across the road and left it here. They came over to get it back. EB, you need to have them. I won't push my mother around. You have to provide electric scooters. It's the law. Me, I'm sorry, but we don't provide those. She turned around to talk to her mother, and I hightailed it into the office. While I'm up there changing the price, I looked up the ADA laws regarding wheelchairs and scooters for kicks. Turns out you're not required to provide scooters or even wheelchairs. You just have to provide handicapped access to your building. I run into the MOD, manager on duty, and have a giant crap-eating grin on my face. More context, this MOD is a gruff old former trucker. She, yes, she, doesn't give a crap about anything. She asked me what the hell I'm so happy about. I just say nothing and continue on my way. About 20 minutes later, I hear some yelling coming from the registers. Smallish store. You can hear people that are yelling from across the store fairly easily. As I'm the only male in the store, I head to the front in case there's an issue that might evolve to physical violence. This, sadly, isn't an overly rare issue. Anyway, I witnessed this conversation. EB, I had to push my mother all the way around the store. MOD, so? EB, what do you mean, so? I wanted her to use an electric scooter. MOD, and your point? EB, getting angrier with specks of spit starting to fly. You have to provide them. MOD, cool as a cucumber because, as I said, she doesn't give a crap. No, we don't. EB, look up the laws. You have to. At this point, I say, excuse us for a second, and pull my MOD to the side to inform her of what the law actually says. MOD, we don't have to provide you with even a wheelchair. EB, yes you do. I'm going to file a complaint with the police. As if that would go anywhere. MOD, why? We don't have to provide you with a wheelchair. And if anyone's going to call the police, it'll be me, because you're being extremely disorderly. Would you like me to do that, or are you going to get your butt out of here? EB, silence. MOD, in her most sarcastic, cheery voice, have a nice night. EB, I'm never shopping here again. Me, silently to myself, bye, Felicia. That MOD and I didn't get along for the first 6 months I worked with her, until we realized we're actually a lot alike after this incident. Now we're pretty good friends. So the moral of the story is nothing brings out friendships like the worst in other people? And our last story. Parking on my property. I live in a cul-de-sac in a well-established neighborhood where most of the residents have been here for over a decade. It's a quiet place with spacious properties, and most of the people are older. When I moved in, I noticed something odd. The strip of land in front of my house, big enough to fit 2 cars, had become the unofficial overflow parking for everyone in the cul-de-sac. For context, it's not a public road or even street parking, it's my land. But because the previous owner of my house was elderly and never left his house, the neighbors had gotten very comfortable using that space as if it were communal property. From old Google Maps images, I saw that the yard had once looked like something out of Hoarders, so I'm guessing they just helped themselves when he didn't keep up with it. The kicker? Everyone here has plenty of parking on their own properties. Their driveways and garages can easily hold 7 vehicles if they needed to, so this wasn't a case of there being no space, just that people got used to parking on my property because it was convenient. When I moved in, I tried to be friendly. I introduced myself and politely let everyone know that while I'm new to the neighborhood, I would appreciate it if they didn't park on my land. The neighbors on my right, who knew the previous owner well, seemed to be the worst offenders. They smiled, nodded, and acted like they understood, but soon enough, the cars kept showing up. The boldest moment came when one of the neighbors had the audacity to text me saying, "We're having a party tonight, expect cars out there," meaning on my property. I decided enough was enough. If the polite approach wasn't working, I needed to make it crystal clear that my land wasn't a free parking lot. So I set out some heavy planters, hoping that it would send the message. I even gave them a bit of grace, leaving an extra 2 feet of space on their side. The next day, I wasn't home, but when I checked the cameras, I was floored. My neighbors had moved the planters. I'd weighed them down with gravel, making it difficult to move. But sure enough, they'd pushed them several feet onto my property again. That was it for me. It's one thing to park on my land, but it's another to physically alter my boundary after I'd made it clear. Now I have the footage of them moving my stuff, and I'm done playing nice. Update. After catching them on camera moving the planters, I decided it was time to get serious. First, I paid a visit to a local property lawyer to understand my options. Turns out I had every legal right to enforce my property line, and the fact that I had video evidence of them trespassing and moving my things was even better. I sent a formal letter to the offending neighbors explaining that their actions were trespassing and that they were no longer allowed to park on my property under any circumstances. I also informed them that if they continued to ignore my boundaries, I would pursue legal action. I even included the footage of them moving the planters for good measure. But guess what? The day after I sent the letter, I came home to find a car parked in my space yet again. This time, I wasn't going to let it slide. I called a local towing company and had the car removed. When the neighbor realized their car was gone, they came knocking on my door, furious. "Where's my car?" they demanded. I calmly replied, "It's been towed. I warned you, and now you've left me no choice. It was parked on my property, and I have every right to remove it." They tried to argue, but I cut them off. "You've trespassed on my land for the last time. If it happens again, I'll call the tow truck every single time. You can explain it to them, not me." The look on their face was priceless. They stormed off, but they knew they had no leg to stand on. To ensure there were no more misunderstandings, I went ahead and installed a low but sturdy fence along the property line. Since then, not a single car has been parked on my property. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.